The anime begins with an edgy fatherless main protagonist, named Takeshi Nanase, who probably has Kaneki as his profile picture since he goes to school on weekends to do his weekly kendo practice so he can get a break from his troubled household. On his way to kendo practice, Takeshi meets up with Kuromi Isoshima, his annoying bimbo blonde-haired girlfriend, who always accompanies Takeshi to his kendo practice. But Takeshi wishes Truck-kun would pay her a visit someday so he can be left alone at last, as she just clings to him like he's the only guy in the world. Anyways, our boy Takeshi, despite being the most introverted shy boy on earth, somehow has the skill to attract the best waifus, because right after his girlfriend Isoshima departs for her judo classes, he runs into another high school baddie named Muieba. Right as Takeshi had opened his door to his kendo practice, the door next to him abruptly opened as the beautiful Mui fell to the ground unconscious. Worried, Takeshi quickly rushed her to the nurse's room only to find that the nurse was absent for the day as it was the weekend. To help Mui regain her consciousness, Takeshi laid Mui on a stretcher, and he sat next to her until she wakes. Moments later, Mui started to murmur the word brother under her breath while latching onto Takeshi, which made him believe that she had accidentally mistaken him for her brother. Mui, after crying out loud while latching onto Takeshi, opened her eyes only to find that she had been hugging a stranger the whole time. Mistaking Takeshi to be a creepy, desperate weirdo, she pushed Takeshi to the ground and pulled a Glock from out of her mini school skirt, and she pointed it towards Takeshi like an absolute badass. Unaware of her surroundings, Mui questions Takeshi about her whereabouts and how she ended up at the nurse's room with him. Intimidated by some crazy woman holding him at point blank, Takeshi reveals how he had carried her to the nurse room to save her. But while he was explaining how she got here, Mui momentarily blacks out once again and this time falls on top of Takeshi, accidentally kissing him in the process. Mui, regaining her consciousness, freaks out after finding herself kissing Takeshi as she pulls out her Glock once again and fires 2 rounds at the wall, causing magical energy to spark out from the wall behind them. Mui, sucking at aiming, masterfully misses her shots and the bullets hit the wall behind Takeshi, who apparently was more concerned about his first kiss with a girl than her attempt to end his life literally 2 seconds ago. Worrying that he had cheated on his girlfriend, Takeshi immediately tries to act chaste by diverting the conversation towards the mysterious magical aura releasing from Mui's gun. Mui, however, is very surprised by the fact that Takeshi was able to see the magical aura, then apologizes to Takeshi since only godly magicians such as herself are the only ones who are normally able to see magic of her kind. However, Takeshi doesn't even know what she means by magic and thinks she's just a crazy person trying to troll him. However, before Mui was able to further explain about magicians, she is interrupted by a scout bug, a butterfly used by other enemy magicians to scout areas. Worried that other magicians were trailing her using a scout bug, she holds Takeshi's hand and tries to escape, but she is stopped and interrogated by the other magicians who were able to catch her. The 4 magicians are named Takao, Hadaru, Ashiwaka, and also their leader, Tsugenashi, who thinks he's the Justin Timberlake of Japan, and who is also Mui's real brother, and the one she is trying to save since her brother is teaming with the enemy by mistake and is using his power against his own sister. After, Tsugenashi blocked their escape path as Tsugenashi stood in front of the classroom exit. Mui, seeing her brother Tsugenashi with his memories altered, begs him to remember her and tries to explain to this dummy that he's not Justin Timberlake and these fools are making him believe that he's something he's not and to snap back into reality. But this obviously doesn't work, since Tsugenashi had his brain put in a ninja blender by those known as the Ghost Trailers, who are an organization of magicians who do not wish to coexist with humans at all, and wants to completely avoid them, as they are so pathetic and weak. To avoid the conflict, Takeshi grabs Mui's hand to jump out of the window, but once again Tsugenashi blocks their escape as he uses his abilities to freeze the window. With nowhere to go, Takeshi draws for his weak wooden sword that he uses for kendo practice and steps forward to fight with Takao to protect his new beauty cutie. After Takao, with his huge big sword, begins to swing it at Takeshi, but since Takeshi had practiced kendo for many years, he's actually able to land a pretty decent blow onto Takao. This makes him enraged, so Takao begins to land a barrage of attacks which eventually breaks Takeshi's wooden sword and causes him to awaken his innate magic ability, which helps him to foresee into the future. With the ability to see moments into the future, Takeshi tells Mui to duck as he uses his sword to hit Takao's hands, which causes Takao's sword to fling at the iced window. With the iced window now broken by Takao's sword, Takeshi and Mui capitalize on their only opportunity to escape as they both jump out of the window. Suganashi, amazed by Takeshi's skill, reveals that Takeshi was an evasive magic user, which meant that his magic abilities were inclined to deflect and avoid attacks before they even happen, and he is amazed that a human has somehow gained this rare ability. Meanwhile, another student named Kazumi Ida approaches the school, only to find his best friend, Takeshi, running away with a girl he's never seen before. He tries to follow them, but he encounters Haruo as she begins to use her powers on him because Ida revealed to her that Takeshi is his best friend, so she gets extremely angry at him and Ida instantly shit his pants. Meanwhile, Takeshi and Mui hide out, as Mui reveals that the magicians who were tailing them were actually after her, since she wanted her brother Tsuganashi to regain all his memories again, and that the Ghost Trailer organization will do anything to stop her. After, Mui apologizes to Takeshi and reveals that it was because of her that he had now also become a magician, something that is normally forbidden in the human world, and she tells him he now will be like this for the rest of his life. As Mui and Takeshi were talking, Takeshi is caught by his girlfriend Isoshima, who coldly asks what Takeshi was doing with another girl all alone. Before Isoshima could strangle Takeshi for cheating on her, the Ghost Trailers catch up to Takeshi once again, and they demand him to hand over Mui. After Takeshi's stubbornness to not hand over Mui, Ushiwaka tries to forcefully take Mui with him, but he is interrupted by Isoshima, who whacks his face with a book. Enraged, Ushiwaka launches his magical beehive attack towards Isoshima, but Mui jumps in front of the attack and defends her. As Ushiwaka's attack injures Mui, Ushiwaka starts to lose all his magic powers, as according to a rule called the gift in Mui's world, magicians get completely stripped of their abilities if they use their powers on another magician in the human world. With Ushiwaka down, Takao decides to go all out on Takeshi, whereas Isoshima, due to getting hit by a magician, unlocks a thing called corporeal magic, which gives her the ability to transform her body on her will, which buffs her in all the right places. Moreover, during the commotion, Ida appears as he carries unconscious Haruo on his back, and his hands start to emit flames, hence implying that he had unlocked destructive magic. Tired with Takeshi and their friends, Takao starts to use all of his fighting techniques, but it is all countered by Takeshi since he was able to foresee all of his attacks. Finally, to end the battle, Takeshi decides to use the help of Mui, who chants a spell and uses it to flashbang Takao, whilst Takeshi smashed his wooden sword into Takao's neck. With the fight over, Mui, in order to protect Takeshi, Ida and Isoshima, decides to lead them to the ruined world, which was a world which separated humans from magicians whilst maintaining magicians' secrecy. Mui informs the group that the ruined world is a place where time has been distorted, and the desolate landscape both is and is not a part of Tokyo. Confused, the group is led by Mui to her high school, called the Subaru Magic High School, where her headmistress, Shiju Momoka, would explain the place in depth. Entering the headmistress's room, the group are shocked to see Momoka, who was a white-haired lolly. Momoka reveals that 3 of the Ghost Trailers that had assaulted the group previously were apprehended. To clear the group's confusions about the ruined world, Momoka informs them about a great magic war between magicians that had taken place 16 years ago. A formidable leader, Ryusenji Kazuma, followed by the Ghost Trailer members, stood against the rest of the magicians as they attempted to eradicate humanity. Possessing a destructive spell called Last Requiem, Kazuma had the ability to incapacitate humans, but other senior mages representing the 15 magic communities stood against him. In an attempt to shield the attack from humans, the mages divided the world into 2. The living world, where the humans resided, was spared, whereas the attack ravaged the magical world. The ruined world has the remains of Tokyo, as the other places are gradually crumbling into nothingness. Inquiring about the aftermath of the war, Momoka informs Takeshi that a pact was formed which limited the fighting within the ruined world. However, the victor of the fighting was to be given rule of the living world as per the terms. So the wise man, a magician of the highest caliber, casted the gift spell over the living world. This spell prevented other magicians from using ancestral magic in the living world, with the only exception being the use of normal magic. Opposed to normal magic, ancestral magic was based on an individual's qualities and traits. Mui proceeds to list the types of ancestral magic, starting with Takeshi's magic type, which was evasive magic. Others were illusion magic, destructive magic, black magic, accelerative magic, and corporeal magic. Mui possessed accelerative magic, whereas Isoshima possessed corporeal magic. In addition, there was another special ancestral magic class that was separate from the 6 ancestral magic classes. As for Ryusenji Kazuma, many rumors pointed to his death or slumber caused by the strong spell, Last Requiem. However, there is a unanimous agreement on the fact that Kazuma had gone missing ever since the war. Momoka further explains about the communities, which were groups of people that shared the same beliefs under the same banner. To name some, the Ghost Trailers is a community that advocates for the supremacy of the magic users, whereas the Wizard Brace. After imparting this knowledge, Momoka instructs the 3 new magic users, namely Takeshi, Isoshima, and Ida, to choose whether they wanted to study magic at the academy or forfeit their magical abilities and return back to their ordinary lives. Takeshi inquires Momoka if the academy was safe, to which Momoka reassures him that the Ghost Trailers would not ambush the institute, as they believed that it would be easier to recruit graduates to join the Ghost Trailers. Thinking back to the incident, Takeshi believes that Miui's brother must have been recruited the same way. Against Isoshima's choice to return back home, Takeshi chooses to study magic at the academy. Under peer pressure, Isoshima hesitantly agrees to stay at the academy, and so Momoka enrolls all of them as first-year students at the high school. As they were noobs in Magic 101, Momoka registers them up in Class C. However, she also deranks Miui to Class C from Class S as a punishment for her reckless behavior in the living world, and instructs Miui to escort the group to their classroom. On the way, Isoshima grows jealous of Miui as Takeshi called Miui by her first name. Pointing this out to Takeshi, Isoshima reminds him that for some reason he had stopped calling her by her first name since the start of middle school. Back at the living world, Takeshi's younger brother, Gecko, learns that both Isoshima and Takeshi have transferred schools. Seeing Gecko waste his time in such matters, his mother then instructs him to focus on his upcoming entrance exams. Meanwhile, at the Subaru Magic High School, the group tries to navigate through their abilities during class. Their teacher instructs them to show their aspects, which were tools that helped in expressing the user's magic power. Isoshima and Ida show their aspects, but Takeshi informs him that he had not yet finalized an aspect. The teacher calls out Miui and pairs her up with Takeshi to find a suitable aspect from the shop. Ida jokes about Takeshi's recent lovey-dovey sprees with Miui, but unamused Isoshima elbow punches Ida. On their way to the shop, Miui shows Takeshi the Glock from before, which was actually her aspect that she had owned since the 6th grade, named Arthur. Likewise, Miui reveals that Tsuganashi, her brainwashed brother, had named his saber Lancelot, which previously belonged to their late father. Both of their parents were magicians, making her a pure-blooded magician who had the ability to use magic naturally. Such lineage was highly regarded by other communities. As Takeshi decides to follow sheep in Momoka's decision to join the Wizard Brace, Miui stops him in his tracks, advising him to make his decision in a more calculated manner. As they reach the shop, Miui introduces the storekeeper with Takeshi, helping them in the search of an aspect. The storekeeper leads the two of them right inside a candlelit room containing a hell load of aspects. Takeshi, being proficient in kendo, decides to use a Japanese sword, which felt like a bamboo stick. Seeing the embellished symbol on the sword's scabbard, the storekeeper informs the two of them about the previous owner, who also happened to be a user of evasive magic. That owner was also one of the 15 great magicians that fought in the Great Magic War 16 years ago. Unsheathing it, Takeshi also finds another symbol on the sword's hilt, which was an evasive magic circle. As Takeshi himself was an evasive magic user, and the aspect also had the inscription of the evasive magic circle, Miui informs Takeshi that his synergistic energy with the sword would increase. The storekeeper informs Takeshi that people that dare to use such an aspect despite it having another magician's inscription could lose an arm or two. But as Takeshi had the same magic type as the sword's inscription, he would be safe from such repercussions. Suddenly, the storekeeper strikes at Takeshi and corners him. Cornered, the magic circle on the sword's hilt glows and draws out Takeshi's power. With the goal fulfilled of having the sword activated, the shopkeeper stops his attacks. As it absorbed Takeshi's powers, the sword revealed a cartridge, leading Miui to realize that Takeshi had got a gun sword. Unable to last any longer, Takeshi drops down as the sword draws out his whole reserve of magic power. The storekeeper commends his ability to last long enough for the cartridge to regenerate, that even on his first try. Takeshi inquires about the cartridge, so the storekeeper hands him 3 bullets which would give the magic abilities of other people to Takeshi. The sword had the ability to change shape based on the magic that the inserted bullets were made to contain. The storekeeper also reveals the name of the aspect, which was Twilight, as named by the previous owner. Seeing that the sword brimmed with potential, Takeshi decides to finalize it as his own aspect, and the two of them return to class. Upon reaching back to their class, they find the whole classroom destroyed by Ida's destructive magic. But the teacher proceeds to continue the session as destruction of property by magic was a common occurrence. Somewhere else, two mysterious ghost trailer members called Violet, who went by the alias V, and Kippe kill many people to keep their identity secret. After the killing spree, they use magic to teleport back to their castle despite their dumbasses being inside a car. The next day, at the Subaru Magic Academy, Takeshi practices the ways of lending his powers to his sword, whereas Isoshima, due to her body transformation abilities, attracts the eyes of the Subaru Academy's cultured men, who all drool over her revealing outfit. Jealous by everyone staring at Isoshima, Takeshi pleads with Isoshima to transform into a kid or something, but due to a bad selection of words, Takeshi's message seems sus since Isoshima weirdly starts to believe that Takeshi was into underage girls. Before things got even weirder, Ida interrupts their conversation by accidentally causing an explosion while practicing his destruction magic. Moments later, Mui appears as she waves and asks Isoshima to hurry up since they were getting late for their gym class. Getting late, Isoshima hurries and joins up with Mui to dress up for gym in the girls' dressing room. Whilst dressing up, Mui reveals that she had 2 tickets for the love fortune telling and she advises that they should go together. After a lot of insisting, Isoshima finally agrees to take the ticket, and whilst receiving the ticket, Isoshima notices Mui's fanservice, which had gotten a lot bigger. Jealous, Isoshima leaves Mui and storms straight for gym class alone, leaving Mui all confused. A little while later, even though they had a little friction, Mui and Isoshima slowly got closer to each other during their gym class as they both walked together after class. After class, Mui and Isoshima run into Ida and Takeshi. During their conversation, 2 girls passing by badmouth Mui by calling her and her family traitors since Suganashi was a member of the Ghost Trailers. Embarrassed, Mui runs away to somewhere else mid-conversation, leaving Ida and Isoshima confused. Following behind, their teacher explains that there were over 50 communities in total, amongst whom were 7 senior communities known as the 7 communities that had voting rights. Adding on, he explains that the leader amongst the 7 communities was a community known as the Wizard Race, since the Ghost Trailers, which was an antagonistic community, had no affiliation with all 7 of the communities. Thus Mui, being a part of the Wizard Race, was seen as a traitor since his brother was in the Ghost Trailers. Upon hearing the word traitor, Takeshi zones out as he gets flashbacks of his brother, Gecko, who always saw him as a traitor. Finding Takeshi zoning out momentarily, Isoshima brings Takeshi back to his senses since they were getting late for their class. After class, after overhearing a commotion going within the cafeteria, Takeshi joins in only to find pictures of Isoshima in her swimsuit being simped upon. Takeshi, in order to defend Isoshima, confiscates all of the pictures and reveals that he was in fact Isoshima's boyfriend, which Mui also hears as she had walked in. Upon hearing that Isoshima and Takeshi were dating, Mui apologizes to Takeshi and runs away as she was filled with guilt. During the next period in class, Takeshi looked at Mui, whereas Mui kept avoiding eye contact, which made Isoshima think that Takeshi was having an affair with Mui, even though it was the opposite. Feeling betrayed, Isoshima finally decides to visit the love fortune teller stall, which had a line of students already waiting for their turn. Finally, after waiting for her turn, Isoshima asks the love fortune teller to reveal her future with Takeshi. After doing a random emote with magic cards, the fortune teller reveals that Takeshi was cheating on her with another girl. Enraged, Isoshima rushed out of the stall and ran whilst having a flashback about Mui, who was apologizing to her since she was accidentally Takeshi's first kiss. Making her way through the hallways, Isoshima finally spots Takeshi and she jumps over him trying to kiss him herself. Weirded out, Takeshi uses his hand to stop her lips, which leads into Isoshima calling Takeshi a jerk since he didn't want to kiss her. Takeshi, after hearing that Isoshima truly wanted him to be her boyfriend, asked Isoshima if he could stop pretending to be her boyfriend since from the very start Takeshi and Isoshima had faked their relationship for some reason. After hearing Takeshi's question, from that day onwards, Isoshima started to distance herself from Takeshi since she thought he had no feelings for her. 3 days later, since Isoshima was still ignoring Takeshi, Mui meets with Takeshi and blames herself for their separation. Reassuring Mui, Takeshi tells Mui that this separation wasn't her fault, and she shouldn't burdenize herself with it as he pats her on the head. Isoshima, spying from afar, misunderstands the situation once again and she heads straight to the washroom. Mui, who was also headed to the washroom, runs into Isoshima, who asks her what Takeshi had told her. Before Mui could complete her sentence, annoyed, Isoshima storms out of the washroom only to find herself flirted by a simp. Isoshima instantly rejected the loser beta male who, out of desperation, chased Isoshima and pulled her shoulder. After feeling a tug on her shoulder, Isoshima started to get flashbacks of her horrifying past encounter with a stalker as she fell to the ground and started to shiver in fear. Confused, the loser boy tries to get hold of Isoshima once again, but this time she is saved by Takeshi, who grabs the creep's hand and tells him to walk away. After the boy ran away, Takeshi starts to remember how from age to age, Isoshima's beauty had attracted a flock of creeps who all wanted her. Moreover, during Isoshima's second year of middle school, she encountered a stalker which scarred her for life. Adding on, since Takeshi and Isoshima were good friends, Takeshi decided to pretend to be Isoshima's boyfriend so that other creeps stayed away. Back to the present, Takeshi tells Isoshima that he felt lonely ever since she distanced herself from him. Thinking about his distanced relationships, Takeshi starts to reminisce about his time with his brother, Gecko. Apparently, back in the day, Gecko and Takeshi were pretty close as he used to always accompany him to school. One day, as Gecko and Takeshi were on their way to school, Takeshi revealed to Gecko that he was dating Isoshima, which enraged Gecko since he had a crush on her. Feeling betrayed, Gecko ran away from Takeshi and started to run blindly on the main road. Takeshi, following from behind, pushed Gecko in front of Truck Kun, which, with a godlike speed, almost isekais Gecko to another universe as Takeshi's flashback ends with Gecko's bag flinging into the air. Back to the present, Isoshima makes up with Takeshi as they continue their pretend relationship. With Isoshima's swimsuit pictures in his pocket which he had earlier confiscated from the perverts, Isoshima takes all of the pictures from Takeshi's pocket and leaves him with her best swimsuit picture. Later that day, Mui returns to the love fortune teller to inquire about her brother's whereabouts. The love fortune teller informs her of Tsuganashi's whereabouts, so Mui sets off to meet him. The next day, at the academy, Ida tries to control his magic by trying to contain his magic within one of Takeshi's bullets. As Takeshi and Ida continue with their training, Isoshima hurried towards the two of them to inform them that Mui was nowhere to be found. Fearing that Mui must have gone to Tsuganashi alone, Takeshi followed by Ida and Isoshima rushed to the Abisu prefecture, which Mui had previously mapped out. On their way, they try to ask the assistance of their teacher, but he was unable to help as Momoka, the headmistress, was away due to a large-scale battle brewing within the ruined world, leaving them unable to make such decisions themselves. Ida tries to warn Takeshi about the dangers of heading into the ruined world recklessly, but Takeshi was determined to rescue Mui from Tsuganashi. Takeshi believes that he and Mui have a lot in common as they both have close relatives that hate and misunderstand them. Unlike he who ran away from his family, Takeshi wants to help Mui, who still has the willpower to continue fighting for her brother. Empathizing with Mui, Takeshi heads into the unknown danger outside the academy. At the Abisu prefecture, Mui stealthily tries to look for Tsuganashi. On her way, she reminisces about the time when her brother made an ice penguin using magic. Unable to forget such warm memories, Mui vows to retrieve her brother back. Meanwhile, at the Subaru Academy, Takeshi, Isoshima and Ida secretly teleport to the outside world after tailing some seniors who are heading out. The group finds themselves at a ruined landscape of Tokyo. As they look around, they find a woman who is a concierge stationed at the teleportation box. She warns the group to head back to the academy as suddenly an airborne attack heads towards them, but the station has a barrier protecting them from all outside magic attacks. Questioned about their motive, the group informs the woman about Mui's journey outside. The woman reveals that Mui had not used the same box that they had used to teleport. They notice a man outside the box, who gets immediately incinerated by magic, further showing the dangers of stepping outside. However, the group, lacking survival instincts, barges outside against the concierge's advice. In a nearby field, Mui gets thrashed around by Tsuganashi, who informs Mui that she fell straight into a trap as the love fortune teller was helping Tsuganashi in luring Mui out. Tsuganashi had been ordered to capture Mui alive by the ghost trailers. Mui begs him to remember their past, but he lifts Mui up and drains her powers. As Mui faints, Takeshi and his friends reach in the nick of time to save her. Enraged, Takeshi dashes with his sword drawn against Tsuganashi, who uses spell Liberate to escape, and then uses the spell Wire Blizzard to send ice projections towards Takeshi. Using Icy Castle, Tsuganashi then tries to freeze Takeshi, but Ida sacrifices himself instead, sparing Takeshi from being in a frozen stronghold. For some reason, Ida forgets to use destructive magic. Perhaps the ice froze his brain cells. While trapped, Ida remembers a past event of when Takeshi protected his sister against some bullies. As time went on, Ida started to run low on oxygen and started to struggle for air. Meanwhile, Suganashi and Takeshi go head to head against each other. Seeing that Takeshi could not even cast the spell Liberate to dodge attacks, Suganashi uses the spell Big Hail to seal his fate. However, Takeshi tries to counter each attack using evasive magic, and even sends one flying towards Ida, breaking the ice prison he was contained in. Buying some time by the counterattack, Takeshi rushes Mui towards Isoshima, asking her to use curative magic on Mui. Takeshi also instructs Ida to insert his magic inside one of the bullets, while he himself would distract Suganashi. Takeshi tries to counter many attacks, but eventually is overpowered by Suganashi. Forced to use his Forte move, he draws out his power to reveal his sword's cartridge. He then inserts the bullet that Ida had contained his magic in, turning the sword into a fiery blazing one. Isoshima and Mui, who are shielding Takeshi, are protected by Takeshi, who uses the spell Blast Fog to send a wave of flames towards Suganashi. Worrying for her brother, Mui tries towards Suganashi but is stopped by Takeshi, who warns her of another person's presence. The smoke clears up, revealing Kippei, who realizes that other magicians were en route to help Mui and her friends. Kippei immediately takes leave, taking Suganashi along with him. The next day, Momoka meets with the four of them, instructing them to promise staying within the academy's bounds. Takeshi refuses to uphold such a promise as Mui was still adamant to retrieving her brother back, and so Takeshi was willing to help her each time. Hearing him out, Momoka gives them a chance to prove themselves in an upcoming ancestral magic exam. Somewhere else, Kippei informs V that the failure of their plans were because of the sudden appearance of the sword Twilight. Noticing that the user of the Twilight was a boy wearing Subaru Academy's uniform, Kippei instructs V to find out the user of the Twilight sword, as V was also a teacher within Subaru Academy. As November drew close, the Subaru Academy erected a building using illusion magic. The exam started with the evasive magic portion first, where the objective was to reach a building that was far in sight from the starting line. They were warned to expect a lot of hurdles which they were to evade using evasive magic. Any injury would immediately teleport the candidate to the medics. Embarking on the journey, Takeshi immediately finds himself in trouble as mechanically equipped spiders trap him from every corner and start using their machine guns. Takeshi evades them and tries to maneuver through the place more carefully. Suddenly, Takeshi finds Takao, a member of the Ghost Trailers, walking casually out in the open. Both of them had previously fought, so, fearing that he would cause trouble, Takeshi approaches him and asks him his motives. However, Takeshi is met with surprise as Takao had no recollection of ever meeting Takeshi before. Moreover, Takao was a candidate in the evasive magic test like all the other students. Confused, Takeshi lets Takao continue with the test. Takeshi's class teacher, Hidauji-sensei, who was overseeing this interaction, informs Momoka that they were successful in overriding Takao's memory. Likewise, at level 1, Isoshima found herself in a corporeal magic test where she was trapped inside a maze. At level 2, Ida was chased down by a horde of zombies as a test for the destructive magic users. At level 5, the accelerative magic test involved shooting down targets, where Mui was shooting them down one by one. Moving ahead in the test at level 4, Takeshi finds and then gets chased down by an angry rhino. The, who was overseeing this, uses black magic on Takeshi's test site, creating a pit that teleports him and the other candidates to level 1, where the corporeal magic users were. Isoshima, confused with the sudden appearance of other students, is suddenly cornered by a rock golem. Before the rock golem could strike, Takao saves Isoshima and cuts down the golem in one fell swoop. Turning towards Isoshima, Takao asks if the two of them had met before. Surprised, Isoshima reminds Takao about the events that had previously unfolded in the living world, where he had chased down Mui and had fought against Takeshi. Unable to remember, Takao notices that he had been injured, so he is withdrawn from the test before Isoshima could explain any further. Shortly after, Ida finds and meets up with Isoshima. Apparently, all the candidates from all levels were brought to level 1, the maze level. Ida and Isoshima rendezvous with Takeshi and Mui. Isoshima and Takeshi share their experiences with Takao, both noticing that he had lost his memory. Before investigating this matter further, Mui suggests that they should, for the time being, reach the building to complete the test. As they get close to the goal, they are suddenly stopped by a rock golem dropping from the sky. All of them use their magic abilities to take it down, but the rock golem outmatched the group as it was fortified by magic. Takeshi reminds Ida about the bullet he had given him. Ida reveals that he had previously contained his magic inside as a precautionary measure for moments such as this, and throws the bullet towards Takeshi while giving their teamwork move a ultra cringy name. Despite the grandiose title, the move falls short of throw power as the bullet drops far from Takeshi's reach. Mui and Isoshima decided to distract the golem while Takeshi tried to retrieve the bullet. Seeing both of the girls covering up for his mistake, Ida decides to act as a man by using destruction magic. The sheer power pushes the golem away, but also recoils himself into a bush as well. Takeshi retrieves the bullet and inserts it inside Twilight's cartridge. Using blast fog from the now transformed sword, Takeshi is able to slice the golem in half using Ida's destruction magic. As they rejoice their victory, the group noticed a playing card heading towards one of the teleporting pits. The playing card reaches V, who is able to visualize the fight that had gone down just by touching the card. She is disappointed to learn that Twilight was not being used to its fullest potential, as she remembers it to be stronger in the past. She vows to retrieve it, as she was the rightful owner to it. Meanwhile, Momoka rests in her room to distress while Nanami Hayadu, the school nurse, massages her. She had realized that the ghost trailers had infiltrated the academy, but was oblivious to the fact that they would cause such large-scale destruction in their wake. As the new year approaches, Isoshima asks Takeshi to return home with her as they both used to buy good luck charms for Gecko each end of year. Takeshi refuses to go with her, causing a big dispute. Acting as a child of domestic abuse, Mui begs them to stop, causing Isoshima to storm away alone. As she returns home, Isoshima is met by Gecko, who at New Year's invites her to visit the local shrine. Isoshima agrees as she needed to get a good luck charm for his upcoming exams. Isoshima shares her regret that Takeshi did not tag along with them. Hearing this, Gecko turns serious and asks her if they both were still falsely dating. Isoshima reaffirms him that they both were still a fake couple. So, Gecko tells her that in the coming April she would have no need to keep up with a fake relationship, as he would be joining the Subaru Magic Academy. Nearby, Kippei and Tsuganashi oversee Gecko's interaction with Isoshima. Back at the academy, Takeshi practices with Mui but soon realizes that she has a high fever. Takeshi carried her to the girls' dorm where she began to act weird due to the fever and pulled Takeshi in bed with herself. At the perfectly bad timing, Isoshima walks in and throws the two of them out due to her misunderstanding. Outside, Takeshi informs Mui that he and Isoshima were a fake couple. Takeshi had made her his girlfriend to keep other creeps away, but soon felt that Isoshima needed to learn to defend herself as well. However, Isoshima still had strong feelings towards Takeshi. Hurt, Isoshima and Takeshi have weird interactions throughout the whole winter vacation. Time skip to February, the headmistress, Momoka, assigned Takeshi, Mui, Isoshima and Ida, along with a batch of high achievers, to the task of retrieving Tsuganashi. Before dispatching them, Momoka hands Mui a bullet containing binding magic which was used to seal magic power, so that Mui can retrieve her brother without hurting him. With all preparations done, Momoka uses her black magic to summon the black door, and before leaving, she brings along brainwashed Takao and Hadaru. With everything in place, Momoka initiates the operation as she entered the black door while all the students followed her steps. Upon entering the black door, everyone teleports to the ruined world where Kippei, along with Tsuganashi, awaited their arrival. Moments after their arrival, it is revealed that Momoka and Kippei had an agreement beforehand in which Momoka had agreed to hand over Takao, who were brainwashed, if Kippei gave her students a chance to fight and earn Tsuganashi back without them interfering in their battle. Finding the deal pleasing, Kippei agreed to Momoka's conditions as he brought Tsuganashi with him, whereas Momoka brought Takao and Hadaru. Before submitting himself back to Kippei, Takao handed Isoshima a valuable shiny item, and as he parted, he pulled Hadaru, who was protesting this decision, along with him to Kippei's car. After receiving Hadaru and Takao back, Kippei handed over Tsuganashi and followed Momoka in her black door so that they couldn't interfere in their fight. As soon as Momoka and Kippei left, the battle between Tsuganashi and the batch of students ensued as everyone activated their ancestral magic. With no intention to hold back, Tsuganashi releases his ice thorns, but it gets easily countered by Nanami, who Momoka had also brought along. Immediately after Tsuganashi got countered, some of the students decided to use a strong magic spell against Tsuganashi which cracked open the floors. As the floor opened, Tsuganashi used his water magic to create a rope which he could hang on as the ground opened, but Nanami immediately broke his rope which made him fall into the void. Believing Tsuganashi was defeated, the students lower their guard, but they immediately get stabbed by Tsuganashi's projectiles as Tsuganashi somehow escaped the void. After jumping out of the void, Suganashi began to make his escape back to the ghost trailers while Mui, along with Takeshi and Ida, followed behind. Meanwhile, after reaching somewhere secluded through the black door, since Kippei and Momoka were ex-teammates, Kippei teased Momoka, which caused a battle between them to ensue. Momoka, using her magic powers, summoned her aspect, which turned out to be a goofy-looking compass, whereas Kippei, pushing his anime glasses back, unsheathed his badass katana aspect. With no time to spare, Momoka clashed her compass with Kippei's katana, due to which huge explosions occurred each time they both clashed their aspects. After a while, Kippei is able to land an attack at Momoka, which is followed by Momoka immediately cutting through Kippei's hair, barely missing his face by an inch. With the buildings collapsing due to their massive attacks, Momoka started to tire out because of Kippei's previous attack, which had landed on her. To end the fight, Momoka decided to use her trump card, as she summoned a black prison and used her weapon to trap and explode Kippei inside it. Expecting Kippei to be dead, Momoka is surprised to see Kippei, who is able to break free of the black prison unharmed. Moreover, since Kippei had landed an attack on Momoka previously, Momoka started to exhaust out as her body started to fill up with bruises and wounds. Seeing Momoka on the verge of death, Kippei began to question her recklessness, and he asked her if she was acting reckless just because she knew about Kazuma's arrival in the near future. Kippei reminds her that Kazuma's arrival will expose her secrets. Ignoring Kippei's rant, Momoka decided to use her strongest spell as she chanted a magic spell and summoned a black hole above the sky. To prevent herself from getting sucked into the black hole, Momoka summoned a mini black hole under herself too, whereas Kippei used his magic powers to hold himself against the immense suction. As they compete to survive, Momoka starts to cough blood due to exhaustion, but she is fortunately saved as a car is pulled to the black hole, taking Kippei along. Back to Takeshi. Takeshi entered inside Suganashi's icy castle along with Mui and Ida, where Suganashi gets the upper hand as he starts to control the icy wall on his will. To counter Suganashi's iced walls, Ida hands over Takeshi a fire-charged bullet, but it unfortunately fails as Ida and Takeshi's power don't synergize. Thus a mini blast sends Twilight flying away from Takeshi's control. To retrieve Twilight, Takeshi jumps over Suganashi's iced attacks, but he gets himself stuck when he tries to retrieve the sword as Suganashi freezes the sword along with his hand. To protect Takeshi, Ida recklessly jumps over Suganashi's iced attacks, but he gets himself injured in the process. With Takeshi and Ida immobile, Mui decides to meet Suganashi on her own as she uses her aspect to make her way towards him. Upon meeting Suganashi, Mui begins to persuade her brother to remember his true past, but it is useless as Suganashi proceeds to unsheath his aspect. After Mui keeps on reminding him of his past, Suganashi starts to see glimpses of him being together with Mui, but he immediately shakes it away by blasting Mui away. After the blast, Mui is forced to fall to the ground as Suganashi approaches her to deliver the final blow. Before Suganashi could land his final blow, the floor beneath Suganashi begins to tremble as Ida's fiery explosion goes all the way to the roof. After a bit of teamwork, Ida and Takeshi figure out a way to make their way to Mui, and they stand in front of Suganashi in order to protect Mui. Mui, with the help of Ida, is able to stand up and she reveals how much she loved and wanted her brother to be happy again. Hearing Mui, Suganashi starts to tear up impulsively, and he starts to see flashbacks of his true self. Confused, Suganashi recklessly runs straight up to them, which gives Mui, who had the magic sealing bullet, an opportunity to temporarily seal her brother from using magic. With no time to spare, Mui began chanting a spell and aimed her aspect at Suganashi before finally firing the bullet at him. The next day, Momoka awakens from unconsciousness, only to find herself in bandages and Nanami, the nurse, next to her. Momoka, knowing Kazuma's re-arrival is inevitable, pleads with Nanami to let her weaken Kazuma before his arrival. But Nanami insists that she needs to stay in bed for at least a month. Meanwhile, Mui, who had her head on her brother's lap, started to cry as Suganashi awakened and had regained his memories. During Mui's reunion with her brother, somewhere else, Kippei meets with V, who was awaiting his arrival. With Suganashi leaving the ghost trailers, V brings in two candidates for filling in Suganashi's seat, but Kippei, who had already selected a replacement, instantly ended the lives of both of the candidates as he laughed psychotically whilst his candidate stood in the dark. The following night, Takeshi dreams about being afloat on a sea of blood. He notices Isoshima rushing towards him from the horizon, only to be pulled by tentacles a moment after. Takeshi breathlessly wakes up from the nightmare. He then returns back to sleep, not noticing that Twilight was drawing out his power to assume a human form. The next day, Takeshi finishes his training under Tsuganashi's supervision and receives chocolates from Mui and Isoshima as it was Valentine's Day. As Takeshi cannot think of an appropriate return gift, Isoshima offers to tag along with him so he could buy special marshmallows for her and Mui. Tired from training, Takeshi falls into a deep sleep the following night. This time he dreams about resting peacefully on clouds. However, this peace is soon interrupted by Mui, who rushes towards a giant floating pancake. But her gluttony is cut short as she falls down from the clouds. Scared for her life, Takeshi once again wakes up in shock. To clear his mind, Takeshi roams outside his room where he meets Tsuganashi. After listening to his recent dream, Tsuganashi advises Takeshi to see the school's nurse, Nanami, as magic could cause nightmares as well. The next day, Mui informs Takeshi that she fell down a flight of stairs after she tried to get leftover pudding from the dining hall. Takeshi is shocked to hear this as his dream turned into reality. Believing that his dreams inadvertently prophesied future events, Takeshi meets with Nanami, who instructs him to sleep. As she supervised his sleep, Nanami notices Twilight turning into a human. At the same time, Takeshi begins to have nightmares, slapping him back to reality. Nanami informs Takeshi that Twilight was casting a type of magic called nightmares on him, which allowed him to foresee future events. Unlike other types of future vision magic, nightmares was the only one that could give accurate details of the future which could not be changed. Seeing that Twilight used mana to assume human form, Nanami warns Takeshi of the possible danger of death that could be caused by an overdraw of mana. She advises him to sleep far from Twilight, but the very night Takeshi disobeys her instructions as he wants to know more about the future. In his dream, he finds Twilight's human form standing in front of him. The next day, Momoka decides to step in as she gives a final warning to Takeshi's reckless behavior. But Takeshi tries to convince Momoka of the potential uses of his prophetic dreams. Hearing his side, Momoka proposes another solution to him which would end the threat to his life imposed by Twilight. To have full control over Twilight, Momoka informs Takeshi that he was required to fight the human form Twilight in his dreams. As this was a difficult feat, Momoka reassured Takeshi that she would supervise him. Before he sleeps, Momoka informs Takeshi that the relationship between a master and their aspect is the same as a parent's relationship with their child. Moreover, Momoka assigns Mui to accompany Takeshi in his dream world. In his dreams, Takeshi finds Mui and lets his dirty desires reign free. However, his fun is cut short as he finds Twilight nearby, who turns the whole surrounding into an icy landscape. There he finds his mother, who tries to apologize to him for some reason. To hear her more clearly, Takeshi tries to approach her but she disappears. Suddenly, Gecko strikes Takeshi from behind, while showing his anger over Takeshi's attempt to kill him. While he is speaking, Gecko slowly changes form, revealing that it was Twilight all along. Having hoped to meet her old master, Twilight shows her disappointment and prepares to fight Takeshi as he was not worthy of wielding her. Takeshi and Twilight go head to head as they spar, but Takeshi begins to notice his inexperience compared to Twilight. Twilight uses Mui as a hostage and threatens Takeshi to withdraw. Takeshi remembers Momoka's imparting words, reminding him of his parent-like relationship with his aspect. Takeshi realizes that he had not acknowledged Twilight this whole time. Having desired to be acknowledged by his mother himself, Takeshi empathetically decides to acknowledge Twilight by giving her a name by himself. He names her Eterna and tells her that she is worthy of love. Impassioned by his words, Twilight drops her weapon and accepts her new name, thus ending the fight. Twilight, who he now called Eterna, allows Takeshi to wield her. The next day, Takeshi returns to the living world along with Isoshima, as he had previously intended to get return gifts for her and Mui. As they would soon be getting into the second year of their academy, they both try to cherish as many memories as possible. In spring, the Subaru Magic Academy prepared to welcome a new batch of students as they assigned Takeshi and Isoshima to help check in the new students. Entering the school, Ida introduced his sister, Futaba, to Isoshima and Takeshi since she was joining the Magic Academy. Since Futaba was super cute, Isoshima tried to roast Ida by asking if he was found in the gutter or something, since he didn't look anything like Futaba. Embarrassed, Ida insisted that they were 100% related, but due to extra and special care by him, Futaba had gotten super cute. During their chit-chat, Takeshi and Isoshima are taken back by a familiar voice which turned out to be none other than Gecko, who was also joining the academy. Surprised, Isoshima and Takeshi asked Gecko why and how was he here, but Gecko responded to the why part by saying that he was there because he had turned into a magician, and he ignored the how part. After the following occurrence, on one day, Takeshi, on his way to the sauna, meets up with Gecko once again, who was already inside the sauna. Awkwardly, Takeshi sat beside Gecko, and after spending a while inside the sauna, Takeshi stood and decided to leave. On his way towards the exit, Gecko called Takeshi and asked him if he wanted his back scrubbed by him. To mend the misunderstandings between them, Takeshi allowed Gecko to scrub his back and he returned. During the scrub, Gecko asked for forgiveness and Takeshi, in order to mend their relationship, forgives Gecko, but he instantly remembered his vision in which he saw Gecko wielding a weapon against him. The days that followed, Takeshi, for the sake of his brother, ignored his vision and started to bond and train with his brother. During lunch break, Takeshi runs into his teacher, who, after using his magic, warns Takeshi about his brother and tells him to guide Gecko. On the same day, at night, Takeshi begins to have visions in the form of nightmares. In his vision, he once again sees Gecko, who wields his weapon and threatens Takeshi to steal everything from him. Scared, Takeshi abruptly wakes up in the middle of the night and he is shocked to see Kippei leaning on his window. Frightened, Takeshi immediately unsheathed his aspect, Eterna, but Kippei, with no intention to fight, told Takeshi to calm down. To reveal the true side of history which the Academy hid, Kippei revealed that at the end of the 8th century, the community wizard brace which he adored so much used to kill magicians from other communities if they used magic. Since Wizard Brace wanted only elites like themselves to only use magic, they took it upon themselves to persecute magicians who used magic. Adding on, Kippei revealed that Kazuma, the leader of the Ghost Trailer, was his best friend since they both, along with another friend, Tsukiyomi, took magic classes together. He revealed that since Wizard Brace sought Kazuma's extraordinary power, they didn't wanted Kazuma to use his power for anything else than the Wizard Brace's interests. Moreover, since Kazuma wanted to use his power independent of Wizard Brace's interests, the Wizard Brace tried to force him into joining them as they threatened him to kill his family. Kazuma, putting his family aside, took it upon himself to kill the principal of the Wizard Brace, which ultimately led to the murder of his family. Ever since then, Kazuma separated himself from the Wizard Brace and formed the Ghost Trailers, which rebelled against the Wizard Brace's greed and arrogance. Adding on, Kippei revealed that during the 20th century, the first great magic war took place between the Ghost Trailers and the communities affiliated with the Wizard Brace. Furthermore, in the battle, Kazuma spotted Takeshi's mother, Yoko, with Twilight, and he launched a strong spell at her. To defend Yoko from Kazuma's spell, Kazuma's best friend, Tsukiyomi, sacrificed himself in order to protect Yoko from the blast which scarred both Yoko and Kazuma for the rest of their lives. Upon revealing that Takeshi's mother was present in the war, Kippei revealed that his mother was among the so-called 15 great magicians and she used to be Kippei's mentor. After the long history lesson, Kippei asked Takeshi to join the Ghost Trailers, but Takeshi, nervous, refused to join him. Seeing Takeshi's stubbornness, Kippei demanded Takeshi to at least hand him over Twilight, since Tsukiyomi, Kippei, and Kazuma's best friend, had saved his mother's life, thus the aspect was a memento of Tsukiyomi. Refusing to even hand Twilight, aka Eterna, over, Kippei left Takeshi as he hoped he would sooner or later join the Ghost Trailers. The next day, to clear his confusion, Takeshi met up with Momoka and asked her about his mother's participation in the First Great Magic War. Momoka, instantly realizing that Kippei met up with him, agreed to her mother's presence in the war, which caused Takeshi to run away in shock. Meanwhile, Kippei, sleeping beside his unconscious friend, Kazuma, doesn't realize that Kazuma had awakened and went to sleep again during his sleep. After waking up, Kippei is overjoyed to see lazy tears in Kazuma's eyes, which prove that Kazuma had momentarily woken up, but V, who was passing by, revealed that Kazuma would truly awaken on June 15th. Time skip to June 15th, Kazuma awakened, and his awakening is witnessed by all the seniors of the Ghost Trailer community who were sitting by his side. With Kazuma awakened, the plan to punish the Wizard Brace is put into action as Kazuma declares his hate for the Wizard Brace in front of the people who sat next to him. Meanwhile, Takeshi, who was still wondering about Kippei's words, panics after his foreseeing ability alerted him of an incoming danger. Sensing danger, Takeshi told everyone to take cover as the floor trembled due to the arrival of a huge red-colored dragon. Upon witnessing the dragon, Ida ran to protect his sister, Futaba, whilst everyone ran for their lives as the dragon used its flames to destroy the building and the students of the academy. The people in red robes attacking their school as they killed anyone who came in their sight. Ida, who is on the lookout for his sister Takeshi along with Isoshima, and Mui head out as Mui goes to look out for her brother. Meanwhile, the teacher, whilst walking through the pile of dead bodies, encounters a red-robed man himself. Catching the teacher off guard, is able to slash the teacher with his sword. At the same time, Mui, who is on the lookout for her brother, encounters a group of red-robe attackers who stood in her way. After getting overwhelmed by the attackers, Suganashi jumps in to save Mui from the attackers. All the while, after summoning her goofy compass aspect, Momoka took care of a lot of red-robed men, but she shortly after encountered 3 robed attackers which apparently looked stronger than the bunch. Moreover, Momoka instantly recognizes them to be the squad which was undefeatable in the Battle of the Ruined World. After a brief introduction, a battle between them ensued as the squad unleashed a barrier which they so thought was indestructible. Momoka uses her powers to break open the barrier. Witnessing from afar, V commends Momoka's skill whilst she, using her cards, summons a black warrior, Valkyrie, in order to attack Momoka. Whilst Momoka was distracted with Valkyrie, V used her powers once again to take back Valkyrie and she summoned Wyvern, the red-colored dragon from before, in her stead. Using Wyvern, V is easily able to overwhelm Momoka since only one strike from Wyvern knocks out Momoka. Meanwhile, Nanami, the nurse, tends to injured students as she sets up multiple beds and medical supplies. After finding Ida injured, Mui and Suganashi carry Ida to Nanami and immediately put him on a stretcher. After finding out that his injuries were not that serious, Mui feels relieved and she begins to wonder about Takeshi's safety. Back to Takeshi, Gecko appears in front of them in a red outfit. Seeing Gecko in a red outfit, Takeshi immediately is alerted by his foresight magic, and Gecko, after figuring out that Takeshi knew about his true colors, finally revealed his true hatred for his brother. To protect Isoshima, Takeshi tells Isoshima to back off since Gecko was part of the ghost trailers and he was taught magic by none other than Kippe. Being a student of Kippe, Gecko is easily able to overwhelm Takeshi as he teleported from one place to another within a flash of a second. Gecko reveals that his magic ability was Angel Hunt, which allowed him to teleport anywhere he wanted. Moreover, since he was growing bored from the fight, Gecko finally used his sword and he pierced it into Takeshi's shoulder. Witnessing Takeshi in pain, Isoshima jumped to Takeshi's aid, but Takeshi, in order to protect Isoshima, told her to stay back as he got back up onto his feet. In order to save Isoshima, Takeshi said, "Nah, I'd win," as he began to lend his mana to his sword whilst Gecko used his spell Liberate in order to gain a buff. After using Liberate, Gecko chanted a spell which gave him wings, and the immense power emanating from him caused the grounds to tremble. Takeshi, with no chance to compete, gets whacked by Gecko, who is able to beat the living crap out of him. Seeing Takeshi go unconscious, Isoshima rushes to Takeshi's unconscious body, but Gecko pulls Isoshima's hands and kicks away Takeshi from her reach. To aid Takeshi, Isoshima breaks free from Gecko's hold and she immediately rushes and kisses Takeshi repeatedly on the lips. Envious, Gecko once again pulls Isoshima, who takes Takeshi's appearance, and this time he punches her in the face, which causes her to get unconscious too. With Isoshima out cold, Gecko is able to retrieve Twilight and he takes Isoshima with him to the ghost trailers. As Gecko took Twilight away, Takeshi begins to hear Eterna calling him as she, before fading away, handed over a vision to Takeshi which was about his mother who was going to get attacked by Gecko. After a while, Mui, after getting concerned for Takeshi's safety, runs to look out for him only to find Takeshi unconscious with V sitting beside his unconscious body. Attempting to take away Takeshi's body with her, V is halted by Mui, who decides to use her Liberate spell. To get rid of Mui, V uses her card to summon a strong whip user which easily is able to knock Mui to the floor. Unable to get up, the attacker raises her whips to deliver the final blow, but before she could, 3 fourth-year students of the Subaru Academy save Mui by totally eliminating the attacker. After eliminating the attacker out of existence, the leader of the trio, Kisaki Ina, used her strong magic to force V to retreat without taking Takeshi's body with her. After V left, moments later, Takeshi opens his eyes only to find himself next to Mui and the 3 students who reveal that they belong to the Camelot community. Moments later, Suganashi joins the 5 of them, and upon meeting Kisaki, Suganashi starts to flirt with Kisaki since she was his ex-girlfriend. Realizing that he was actually there for Takeshi, Suganashi asks Takeshi to stand up, but since Takeshi was heavily injured, Kisaki takes Takeshi to the Camelot medical facility. Time skip to 3 days later, Takeshi awakens and finds himself in a hospital bed with Mui attending him in a cute nurse outfit. Moments later, Ida, who was waiting for Takeshi to wake up, shows up all crying as he cries about his sister being taken by the Magical Inspection Bureau. Takeshi, glad to hear that his sister wasn't captured by the enemies instead, said that her sister being taken by the agency was for the better since her sister would be better off in the hands of the Bureau than outside facing the even greater problem. During their conversation, Kisaki and Tsuganashi show up as they ask Takeshi about his health, and they tell Takeshi, Ida and Mui to stay at the hospital until they've fully recovered. At night, when Mui was asleep, Takeshi tries to sneak out from the hospital, but he instead catches Tsuganashi and Kisaki arguing about him, and he decides to eavesdrop. Since Camelot was a women-only community, Kisaki pleaded with Tsuganashi to take Takeshi somewhere else, but since Takeshi was still weak, Tsuganashi told her to let him stay for a few more days. Seeing her ex-boyfriend begging for Takeshi, Kisaki agrees and decides to persuade the Camelot seniors for the approval for his stay. Hearing Tsuganashi beg for him to not cause any more problems for Tsuganashi, Takeshi decides to return back to his hospital bed. Meanwhile, at the sinister headquarters of the Ghost Trailers, Kazuma stands in front of his army as he sets his vile plan into motion by sending Kippei off to take care of the Wise Man, the protector of the living world. At the mansion where the Wise Man resided, Kippei easily is able to infiltrate inside as he killed men who stood in his way. After a while, Kippei is able to beat the Wise Man as he is barely able to walk due to the injuries all over his body. Seeing the Wise Man in his pathetic state, Kippei revealed that the Ghost Trailers were going to kill the humans in the living world in order to create a world for magicians only, and he unsheathed his sword to kill the injured Wise Man. With the gift spell dispelled, the Ghost Trailers make their way to the living world, and they wreak chaos since now they had no restrictions on them. Meanwhile, after hearing about the attack on the living world, Takeshi requests Kisaki and Tsuganashi to teleport him to his mother since he remembered the vision in which Gecko would attack his mother. Upon reaching home, Takeshi, along with Kisaki and Tsuganashi, meet up with Takeshi's mom, Yoko, who seemed to be unharmed. Upon meeting Yoko, Kisaki delivers a formal letter which the Bishop of Camelot had sent for her. In the letter, the Bishop of Camelot had requested Yoko to train Takeshi, but since she wasn't a magician anymore, Yoko initially was hesitant about the request. After seeing Takeshi's determination to get stronger for the ones he loved, Yoko agrees to help him out as she wears the ring aspect which was inside the envelope. The next day, Yoko immediately gets to train Takeshi, and she instantly finds out that her son was an absolute noob and needed much more improvement. With no time to spare, Yoko spends hours and hours training Takeshi, who slowly but surely was improving, which was evident by the broken kendo sword which Takeshi had used for practice. After the training for the day ended, due to the intense training, Yoko, since she wasn't a magician anymore, starts to exhaust her body since the ring aspect sucked up life force in order to produce magic power. With the training for the day completed, Takeshi meets up with Mui, who finds Takeshi happy even though he just underwent a tiring training session. Seeing Takeshi's determination to retrieve Isoshima, Mui revealed the shiny item which she obtained from before, and she revealed that the item might be a way they could teleport to the Ghost Trailers. Surprised that she hadn't told such a valuable thing earlier, Mui said that she knew that Takeshi would act recklessly if she had revealed a way to retrieve Isoshima earlier. Agreeing with Mui's decision, Takeshi reassures Mui that he will train before recklessly making his move on the Ghost Trailers. Meanwhile, Isoshima awakens from her unconsciousness only to find that she had transformed her appearance to look like Takeshi. Gecko soon enters the room and asks her to change her hideous Takeshi appearance. Isoshima, who was surprised by her appearance herself, speculated that it was caused by the kiss that she gave to Takeshi. Returning to her normal form, Isoshima insults Gecko for his extreme behavior. Angered, Gecko slashes the ground using Twilight, giving Isoshima enough time to escape. While looking for a place to hide, Isoshima bumps into Takao and asks him for help. As she was clueless about her surroundings, Takao informs her that she was inside the headquarters of the Ghost Trailers. He then takes her to his room and reveals that he had regained his lost memories. Soon, Hataru barges in, so Isoshima asks Hataru for help as well. Hataru, who was pissed at Gecko for claiming her spot as Kippei's right-hand man, agreed to help Isoshima evade Gecko. When the coast was clear, the three of them set off. Heading out, Hataru explains that the Ghost Trailers headquarters was formerly the headquarters of the Pendragons. As the headquarters was imbued with magic, the rooms swapped places by the hour, and so there wasn't a concrete map to follow. On their way, Gecko approaches them, so Takao hastily instructs Hataru to hide Isoshima. To avoid getting caught, Isoshima uses her lipstick aspect and hesitantly kisses Hataru in order to change into her form. Hataru, who is weirded out by taking part in self-cest, heads away from Isoshima. Soon, Gecko approaches Isoshima, but mistakes her for Hataru and takes his leave. Alone, Isoshima uses her disguise to search every room in hopes of an exit. As the hours pass by, Isoshima finds it hard to keep up her disguise, forcing her to expose herself in the open. Fearing capture, she rushes towards a nearby dark room, only to be trapped inside it. However, another person present in the room asks for her hand. As he was shrouded in darkness, Isoshima hesitantly trusts him. The strange person opens up a portal, taking the two of them to a library. Shortly after, the strange man reveals himself as Ryusenji Kazuma. Meanwhile, under his mother's supervision, Takeshi practices using incantations to quicken his spell casting time. At the end of the session, Takeshi's mother decides to inform Takeshi about something regarding Gecko's accident in the past, but is unable to talk as she grows weak due to the ring. Takeshi holds her and suggests that she rests first. Believing that he had grown strong, Takeshi decides to head to Isoshima alone, but Mui and Ida rush to him and offer to tag along. Using the device from before, the three of them teleport to the headquarters of the Ghost Trailers, only to be met by Takao and Hataru. To protect the headquarters, Takao rushes to fight off Takeshi, whereas Hataru occupies Ida and Mui. Due to the training from before, Takeshi goes head-to-head against Takao, forcing him to use his full strength. Likewise, after several blows, Ida uses a 4-day spell called Blast Finger which breaks Hataru's injection, rendering her completely useless. After defeating Hataru, Mui rushes to assist Takeshi against Takao. Takeshi uses an incantation to buff his sword, but is unable to pierce Takao's defense as he uses a shielding spell called Caesar Shield. With the help of Mui, Takeshi is able to break the shield as the spell could be weakened when a combination spell is cast by multiple magicians. Able to use his newfound ability of seeing glimpses into the future, Takeshi advises Takao to accept defeat. Accepting defeat, Takao and Hataru inform the trio about Isoshima, who had suddenly disappeared from the headquarters. Takeshi, after learning that Takao genuinely tried to help, thanks him. Takeshi, Ida and Mui then head onwards, searching for Mui on their way. Takeshi rushes to his home, only to find that he was a little late. Gecko, covered in blood, exits the house and mocks Takeshi by showing off Twilight. After a heated exchange, Gecko orders Twilight to attack Takeshi. Imprisoned by Gecko's power, Twilight is forced to fight Takeshi, who is clearly outmatched. Seeing his pitiful state, Gecko pulls Twilight away, and instead reveals info that he had gained about his accident that had happened 3 years ago in the past. To Takeshi's surprise, Gecko informs Takeshi that he was not responsible for causing the accident, but instead it was their mother who was responsible. Takeshi, who up till now believed that he had shoved Gecko onto incoming traffic, learns that their mother wanted Gecko dead for some reason. Overhearing their conversation, Takeshi's mother remembers about the prophetic dreams she had in the past, having nightmares from Twilight, which led to the disastrous events taking place in the present day. Seeing that Takeshi was still concerned for their traitorous mother, Gecko grows enraged and clashes swords with Takeshi. Having previously gained foresight, Takeshi is able to predict Gecko's movements, which gives Gecko a tough time. As they fought against each other, both the Ghost Trailers and the Wizard Brace gathered their forces in order to settle scores of their tainted past, and soon notices Takeshi and Gecko together. Seeing Gecko emotionally manipulate Takeshi once again, Isoshima rushes to save Takeshi, but gets stabbed in the process. Mui realizes that Isoshima had been seriously injured, and dashes to her help. Takeshi, engulfed by rage, vows to punish Gecko for his actions. With all her remaining strength, Isoshima whispers something to Mui. Hearing her message, Mui breaks into tears, wishing that Takeshi stopped fighting. Meanwhile, Momoka watched from afar and realized that the situation had gone out of hand. In an attempt to resolve the fight, she sends an energy orb towards the battlefield, which leads to a huge explosion. During the explosion, future timeline Takeshi, who was successfully in possession of Kazuma's body, heals his mother from the injuries she had received. Moreover, the present timeline Takeshi is sent to the past timeline, where he finds himself at the academy in the year 1988, which was a year prior to the first magical war. At the academy, Takeshi finds her mother, Hidauji, Kippei, Momoka, Kazuma, and Tsukiyomi all together as friends. However, he is taken by shock as he finds Gecko present with all of them as well. Gecko, who was trying to get close to Kazuma by befriending him, smirks at Takeshi as he had sinister plans in store for him. As per their mother's predictions, Gecko was trying to take Kazuma's body. Takeshi, shocked by Gecko's presence in the past, tries to stop Gecko from succeeding in gaining Kazuma's body.